Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you're joining us from. And welcome to this second International Consultants Day session 2026. It's a day that belongs to every management consultant on the planet. And we pause today to recognise the extraordinary contribution that professional management consultants make to organisations and economies worldwide. It's a moment to celebrate our profession and to reflect on the challenges that we face and to recommit ourselves to the standards that set us apart. This year, that reflection has never been more urgent. And I'll make no apology, I'm going to repeat almost word for word what I said this morning, because the message is so important. We've called this year's event Mastering the Storm, and we chose those words deliberately. Not just surviving the storm, not even sheltering from it, but mastering it. Because the environment in which we and our clients operate is not simply turbulent, it's structurally different from anything most of us have experienced in our professional lives. Consider what our clients are facing right now. Geopolitical instability has moved from margins to the center of corporate strategy. Trade wars, sanction regimes, and fractured supply chains, they're no longer background noise. They're boardroom priorities. The conflict in Ukraine continues to reshape energy policy and defense spending across Europe. Tensions in the South China Sea are forcing companies to rethink decades of supply chain assumptions. In the Middle East, the volatility of war is redrawing the map of economic cooperation and risk. At the same time, artificial intelligence is advancing at a pace that makes last year's breakthroughs feel like ancient history. Generative AI, agentic systems, autonomous decision-making tools, they're not future possibilities. They're present realities that are already changing how organizations operate, compete, and create value. Analysts estimate that over 70% of major consulting firms have now embedded AI platforms into their service delivery. I mean, that's probably last year's estimate. This year, I guess it's even more. Clients no longer ask whether AI will affect their business. They're now asking their consultants why they haven't already helped them to harness it. And layer on top of all this, the ongoing challenges of sustainability, the expectations of a new generation of workers, regulatory complexity that grows by the month, and a global economy where inflation, interest rates, and growth trajectories vary wildly from region to region. You have what one would describe as a perfect storm, not a passing shower, but a sustained period of high winds and heavy seas. And here's the critical point. This is precisely the environment in which professional management consultants should thrive. Storms are when captains earn their keep, but only if those captains are competent, ethical, and properly equipped. I've spoken many times about the need for agility in our profession, and I make no apology for returning to that theme again today. Agility is not a management fad. It is quite simply the defining capability that separates consultants who will prosper in this environment from those who will be left behind. And what do I mean by agility in a consulting context? I mean the ability to read a rapidly changing landscape, to spot the weak signals, to perceive the future trends, and adjust advice accordingly. Not after the fact, but in real time. I mean the willingness to cross disciplinary boundaries, to integrate technology, strategy, people and governance into coherent solutions rather than delivering them in silos. I mean the intellectual honesty to tell a client the recommendations I gave you 3 months ago now need updating because the world has changed. Agility also means embracing new business models. Clients have moved away from traditional hourly billing towards outcome-based and value-driven engagements. They want partners who deliver measurable results, not beautifully formatted slide decks. The consulting firms, large and small, that are thriving right now are those that have restructured around shorter engagement cycles, iterative delivery, and multidisciplinary teams that include technologists, data scientists, change management specialists working alongside traditional strategy consultants. But agility without a foundation is just chaos, which brings me to the heart of the matter: standards and codes in an unregulated profession. Management consulting remains, in almost every jurisdiction on earth, an unregulated profession. Anyone can call themselves a management consultant. Anyone can hang out a shingle, print a business card, and start advising organizations on matters that affect livelihoods, communities, and economies. There is no legal barrier to entry, no mandatory qualification, no enforced code of conduct. Let that sink in for a moment. In a global market that it's valued at somewhere over $1 trillion, there is no compulsory professional standard. Medical doctors must be licensed, accountants must be certified, engineers must be registered, but management consultants, the door's wide open. How can it be that medical doctors dedicated to preserving the health of individuals are regulated, while management consultants dedicated to preserving the health of organizations whose advice can make or break $1 million business and ruin employees' lives have no enforceable regulation? And we've seen the outcome of this lack of regulation recently in the number of scandals surrounding the large firms in the consulting industry. This is why ICMCI exists. This is why Certified Management Consulting Designation, the CMC, matters. And this is why our standards and our codes are not bureaucratic luxuries. They are the essential architecture of that part of the profession that takes itself seriously. The CMC designation is the only globally recognized professional certification for management consultants, upheld across some 60 countries. It assures clients that the consultant they have engaged meets verified standards of competence, adheres to a published code of professional conduct, and commits to continuous professional development. In a market awash with self-proclaimed experts, the CMC alone is the mark of trust. But standards are not static. They must evolve as the profession evolves. And that's exactly what we're doing in ICMCI. Let me turn now to what lies ahead of us in today's program, because every session has been carefully chosen to address the challenges that I've just outlined. Immediately after my remarks, Robert Bodenstein, CMC, and many of you will know Robert as the immediate past chair of ICMCI, and a man who led the development of the ISO 20700 standard for management consulting services. Robert will take us deep into the theme of navigating the storm, developing and implementing strategies in an uncertain world. This is the subject of this year's ICMCI white paper, based on the theme of our 2025 annual conference. Robert brings a unique combination of strategic insight and practical experience and understands better than most what it takes to build strategy that survives contact with reality. His session will give us the frameworks and the mindsets we need to turn uncertainty from a threat into an opportunity. This is not abstract theory. It's the precision strategy that our conference title demands. Following Robert, Celal Seshkin, CMC, Chair of our Professional Development and Standards Committee, will present the 2026 update to the ICMCI Competence Framework. This is a milestone moment. The Competence Framework defines what it means to be a professional management consultant. It's the foundation on which the CMC designation rests. Celal and his team have conducted extensive reviews, gathering feedback from member institutes, IQA assessors, CMC holders, and external partners across our network. The updated framework reflects the impact of digitalization, artificial intelligence, and the global megatrends that are transforming our profession. It's been restructured to be as lean and practical as possible, while ensuring that it remains fit for the future. If you want to understand what competence looks like in the age of AI, that's a session you can't afford to miss. I'm going to then return to present the ICMCI's Code for the Responsible Use of AI in Management Consulting, which we are publicly launching today. This is a subject which we need to care about passionately. AI is arguably the most powerful tool ever to enter our profession. But a tool is only as good and as ethical as the hands that wield it. Our AI use code sets out the principles that should govern how consultants deploy AI. Human oversight and responsibility, transparency, fairness, privacy, safety, accountability, and sustainability. It addresses governance structures, individual responsibilities, client communication, and data protection. It is, I believe, one of the most important pieces of work ICMCI has produced, because it positions our profession at the forefront of responsible AI adoption, not as passive users of someone else's technology, but as trusted advisors who bring ethical rigor to every engagement. Another important ICMCI publication, soon to be made publicly available, is this year's paper on the ICMCI National Consulting Index. The NCI is a measure of the relative strength of a country's management consulting sector compared to the country's overall economy. NCI is calculated by dividing the dollar value of a country's management consulting sector by the dollar size of the country's gross domestic product, GDP. The NCI was first developed by us in 2018 as part of our work as a leader in the development of management consulting as a global profession. This year's paper provides a data-driven analysis that looks at the correlation between the NCI and 17 other global indices of country-by-country characteristics. The analysis revealed a noteworthy correlation between the NCI and 6 of these indices, and it also makes recommendations for further research around NCI and correlation testing. So let me draw all these threads together. The storm is real. Geopolitical disruption, technological transformation, shifting client expectations, and the ever-present challenge of maintaining professional standards in an unregulated market. These are not hypothetical risks. They are the daily reality of our profession. But I'm before you today not with a warning, but with a conviction. The management consultants who will master this storm are those who combine 3 things: the agility to adapt their thinking and their methods to a world that will not stand still, the competence to deliver advice that is grounded in genuine expertise, not borrowed jargon, and the integrity to hold themselves to standards of conduct that earn and keep the trust of their clients. Agility, competence, integrity. That is what ICMCI stands for. That is what the CMC designation represents. And that is what today's program is designed to strengthen. We're not just commentators on the storm. We're navigators through the storm. Let's make sure that we're worthy of that role. Thank you for your attention. And now let me hand over to Robert, and he's going to begin our journey into the heart of the storm. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for your introduction. A warm welcome, my friends from all over the world. As Nick already mentioned, we set up a new ICMCI white paper, and today it's time to publish it. It's the third white paper in a row, so I think it's becoming more or less a tradition, slowly starting a tradition. But I'm asking for a flourish and drum roll, please. Here it is, the white paper of ICMCI, the global leader in the representation of management consulting profession. And we're always following a mega trend, or what we consider as a mega trend. And as Nick already introduced, this white paper is about what we call navigating the storm. Following the conference in Shanghai last year, we had very good speeches there and presentations, and all of them were raising the issue of the complexity of the world and the uncertainty of the world. And it's also in many talks in the networking sessions, it was always on top that is something that has an impact on the business, on the economy at all. And it is a really challenge for business leader to master that and to understand what's the input of these multiple crises on their specific strategy and what it needs to be aligned and and how can they make sure that the strategy is still up to date. Our overarching theme why we do publish the white paper is as ICMCI because we want to build on our status to be recognized as the international representation of the profession. And as I said, this is not our first paper; it's the third white paper, and I'm sure there are some more to come, and hopefully they will come on a yearly basis. It's not a white paper about changing the world and making everything better on world, and it's not a white paper to how to deal with geopolitical constraints. It's really focusing on the impact of this situation on business and on the strategy of business. What's the strategic impact? And it's, as Nick already said, it's more in terms of mastering and not in terms of hiding. It's in terms of what would it mean, how can we react, and from our motivational side, I want to highlight some backgrounds. First of all, it's interesting. It's an evolutionary constraint. The world is, the evolution means change. The universe is built on change, and our own survival is always depending on how much are we capable to adapt to that change. I'm an optimist, by the way, in my view, this change ultimately drives progress and long-term improvement. At the end of the day, it's becoming better, but it's more and more challenging to survive. Interestingly, the human nature is not really interested in change. Human nature doesn't like too much change. we prefer to sit in our couch at home, and we prefer to have comfort and stability. And at the same time, it's change is what makes us survive. Um, I don't know, many of you might know the term VUCA, and it's interestingly, that term hasn't been coined in the last couple of years. It was coined in the 1980s. And there are in many books, many old books and new books, and historical books you may change that you may read that people always complaining about the speed of change. It's hard to measure speed of change, but if it's true or not, the perception is that the speed of change is accelerating. And that shapes the public opinion, and that makes it impacting on the strategy of business. And this is exactly where we come in, because we need to support our clients, we need to help our clients to understand what does it mean, and at the same time to use the willingness of change, to use that in terms of strategic advantage. And this is why we set up this white paper on this topic. And this white paper, as I said, is published today. It gives insights and best practice for the profession. That's the overarching goal. And it is the most comprehensive white paper we have been produced by now, more than 260 pages. We have 22 articles with more than 15,000 words. It's hard to count the words. I need to ask a special version of my PDF reader to give me the number of words. We have 28 contributing authors from 14 nations. That demonstrates how big our family is, how big our community is. And interestingly, it was very easy to find those 28 contributing authors. And we are all on the same line. It's interesting, despite the diverse background, the different political situations, different economic situations, we are all aiming in the same direction. We asked for articles and gave some guidelines to the authors. It's not a strict rules. We are not publishing a scientific work. All articles shine a light on the management consulting perspective. All articles giving practical insights and use cases, and they give potential value of innovations. This is what we have been asking for. And that was followed by all these articles in a very, very high quality. Each article stands for itself. Each article might be overlapping with other articles. It might be the case that they are even contradicting other articles, but I think that's the good side. It's a good base for discussion. It's a good base to understand different understandings and different approaches, and to work out what would be the best approach for my specific company, for my specific consulting project. We don't have a ready solution. I'm sorry. We don't have a ready solution. We don't have a checklist with boxes to be ticked, and then everything is sorted out. We have a structure of what we call areas to consider. The first one is about corporate culture, because we find that corporate culture is the overarching approach for management consultants, and we need to consider that, especially when we are CMCs, we do that by itself and by nature. The second area is about governance, different types of governance, data governance, corporate governance, consulting governance. Area 3 is about technology. Area 4 is about diversity of culture and of teams. And area 5 is skills and competences for leaders, and that will lead us to my handing over to Celal after my presentation. Now, Nick promised you to give you insights. And as I said, we have these 5 areas, 260 pages. So make ready for a little bit longer presentation. It might take some hours. And it will give you more insights. But I found a way to conclude quite more condensed way in a more directly way. And I prepared for each of these sections, each of these areas, 1 or 2 statements that, in my opinion, are the most important outcomes. Let me start with the first one, corporate culture. Actually, it's 2 statements for this area. First one is the professional management consultants serve as an objective structural mirror and behavioral catalyst. This is why management consulting exists. We have the outside view. We are able to work on the corporate culture with the appropriate professional distance to understand what is the goal, what is the current situation, especially CMCs. They are very much linked to corporate culture, and corporate culture needs to be adapted in many situations. You may call that an ecosystem, you may call it the corporate culture, but it is one of the key areas to work with corporates to improve in terms of agility. And that goes in the direction that improvisation is not a failure mode. It is actually the highest form of organizational excellence. And corporate culture is the ground from which either grows or does not. And I think that's a very important outcome of the articles and of the white paper. And this is actually it's a disruptive, more disruptive approach of how to deal with the current situation. Then it's not business as usual. Second area is about governance, ESG, and strategic risk management. And that's a very short sentence and a very short statement from reactive compliance to strategic advantage. And it says a lot about the current situation. In many companies, in many enterprises, things like governance are linked to the legal department. ESG is linked to the marketing department, or maybe the financial department, or maybe the communication department. But there is no strategic background. If you do what is necessary in terms of regulations or in terms of standards, you just do what everybody does. And this is not a competitive advantage. If you want to make more out of it, if you want to be more efficient, if you want to have a competitive advantage, you need to think these topics from a strategic perspective. If you have a proper data governance, which is required for following GDPR rules, for example, fine. If you have it to be more agile in implementing new software solutions, or if you want to be more agile in implementing new software in terms of business models, you need to have a proper data governance, specifically if you talk about artificial intelligence, and implementing artificial intelligence is more a problem of data governance than a problem of technology. That is bringing me to the next area, and that's what I would call the technology imperative. Technical debts are becoming more and more the highest risk for enterprises and for any type of business. If you have technical debts in your company and you are not dealing with that very, very consequent and very quick, you will fail. You are not able to adapt to new business models. You are not able to have a more efficient process management. You are not able to hire even new employees, because if they are stuck in technology lacks and not in solving clients' problems and customer problems, they cannot see a benefit of their contribution to your company. So technology is one of the key success factors to navigate the storm. And there are some few very, very easy to check indicators. Is this company having a lack in terms of technology? Maybe it's better to say to the client, look for another consultant, but if you're not changing it, I am not the right guy to help you. Let me go to the next area and condense it to one statement and see what this white paper says. This white paper was created by 28 authors from 14 nations. Some of them were younger, some of them were older, some of them are more experienced, some of them are, all of them are active in different areas or different industries, in different cultural backgrounds, different business opportunities, different political backgrounds. And I understand this white paper as the conclusion of different approaches, and it makes this white paper really valuable. I really want to recommend you go through these 260 pages and you will learn. You will learn a lot and you will understand business much better, even if you don't act international. Even if you act local, it helps you to understand different approaches and gives you creative input. And we do know diverse teams are better, diverse teams are more agile, they understand client needs better, they are more resilient. So consider diversity as one of the key elements of a strategy to master the storm. And last, but definitely not least, the skills and competences for evolving leaders and consultants. And let me focus on the consultant side first. And let me call on a very polite and diplomatic final call for management consultants. Change, adapt, be first. We as management consulting must be first in doing our homework, to be first in adapting new technologies, to understand not that we need to implement all these technologies in our business, but we need to understand and we need to implement some of the technologies in our business. We cannot ask business leaders to change if we self are not able to do so. We need to understand technology. We need to understand ethical challenges. We need to understand the impact of new regulations on the business. We need to be the first to be up to date. And then business leaders will accept us on a peer-to-peer relationship. I'm sure that Jalal will give you some insights on that a little bit later. Before I hand over or hand back to Nick, I want to say thank you to all the authors. It's, as I said already, it was an amazing experience for me as the editor-in-chief to get all these articles. It was really a pleasure. And some of them are actually in this meeting now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You really contributed a lot to our profession and to ICMCI. Please use the white paper to promote your article and to promote the white paper for ICMCI. If you want to have access to the white paper, just not click on the QR code, scan the QR code. Kusaima will put the link into the chat box, and you will get the link in the minutes of this meeting. We will send it to you, but the QR code is already working. And I would be happy to discuss it with you. It would take some other hours, but now I want to give back to Nick. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for your contributions.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert. I think you actually managed to achieve the impossible in summarizing so adequately the input of 28 authors in 150,000 words. So thank you so much for that. And now over to Chalal to talk to us about our new competence framework. Chalal.
Thank you very much, Nick. Now I will share with you all the process of development and some content of the CMC Competence Framework version 2026. Welcome to everyone and happy International Consultants Day. Enjoy your day. So in my presentation, I will go through the key steps and the data collection process of the review of existing competence framework, and then key aspects of what is included in the revised version or updated version. I'm representing the PDSC, Professional Development and Standards Committee, who worked on this review process in development of the 2026 version of competence framework. So we have members from Turkey, Italy, UK, Serbia, Caribbean, and Jordan. Another diversity example, Robert. So review process and the work calendar included steps like scope of the work definition of the scope of the work in September 2025. And then we shared the workload amongst the PDSC members. And the key step just after the workload sharing was to send a survey, an extensive and comprehensive survey to stakeholders such as IMCs, partner organizations such as UNIDO and EBRD and other organizations, plus the users of competence framework like CMC holders and assessors of IQA. Then we have collected all the inputs, and the inputs have been analyzed, and the key messages have been sorted. And after the presentation to the board, we have worked on the inputs and the development of the new content. So, okay, so there was, yeah. So then after these steps, let me just summarize what we have received as key messages. And we have asked some questions to the stakeholders and assessors. And here are summary of those inputs. For example, how useful is the current framework for your professional or institutional context? To this question, the answer was 88% useful and very useful. Another question was, how would you rate the relevance of the existing competence framework? And the answer was 86 or 84% very relevant and relevant. Which of the following global trends should be more explicitly reflected in the CMC competence framework, the new version of the competence framework? And the answers were accumulated in around the concepts like sustainability, 58%, artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, 78%, digitalization, circular economy, new organizational forms, as well as the new ways of working like remote working, hybrid, agile collaboration, and the other new styles of working, more than 50% of the respondents. Again, from the stakeholders, some more questions, examples of them. Are there any subjects or concepts that you think should be removed from the framework? The answer was clear. 90% said no. So this was something to be happy indeed. We had the correct framework. We have a good description of competences already. Are there any subjects or concepts that you think should definitely be kept in the framework? Keep all the subjects at a rate of 80%. Responses to the question, what new competences or skills should be kept in the competence framework or added to the competence framework? Facilitation, different types of facilitation, in person, hybrid, remote environments, working with clients in multiple modes, leadership for remote hybrid teams, analytical thinking, problem solving. All of these we have included. Sorry, there has been some disconnection, I think. So all of these have been included already in the new competence framework, and you will see them. I will have some examples as extracts from the competence framework. So summary of inputs about what additional support documents or materials would you find useful as part of the CMC competence framework package. And some inputs have been guidance notes, case studies and examples, self-assessment tools, training modules. We will also provide these supporting documents as part of the package of competence framework in the following weeks and months. Communication must be improved was one of the key messages, and we will give special attention to communication of the new and updated competence framework to the global community so that it will be well known and it will be used much more extensively. And also a common language, common understanding will be established. Now, a little bit of the feedback from the assessors. Similar questions have been asked to assessors, such as how comfortable are you with the current CMC competence framework? 96% said very much comfortable and somewhat comfortable. How useful do you find the framework in assessing IMC's processes for CMC? And again, 90% or 88% has been extremely useful, very useful. To what extent does the framework reflect the skills and competences needed by management consultants? Again, the answer was 90%, 95%, very well and adequately. How do you see the metrics of preferred and acceptable assessment techniques, which is a key tool in the assessments that is used by the assessors? 80% found it very well and adequately. So some more questions asked to the assessors and answers. How effective is the framework in ensuring fairness, consistency, and credibility in assessments? Again, 100% found it effective or very effective. How useful do you find the framework in assessing IMC's processes? Again, 90% found it very useful and extremely useful. Similar question, just like in the stakeholders case, which of the following global trends would you prefer to see more explicit in the competence framework? Again, similar answers in alignment with the input from stakeholders: sustainability, artificial intelligence, around 80%, digitalization, 75%, new ways of working, 65%, and linking client transformation to global trends, 70. So majority have provided a similar feedback like in the case of stakeholders. So some summary, what new competences or skills should be added to the framework to ensure future relevance? Again, artificial intelligence, digital literacy, technology skills, value creation. And aspects of framework do you think could be improved? Increase frequency of meetings, which supports communication again. Integrate global trends such as digitalization, AI, and sustainability. Provide clear guidance on equivalence application for IMCs. Simplify the material. And we have already been working on these subjects to make a better and more satisfactory package. And how would you rate the relevance of competence areas? Again, 100% found it relevant and very relevant. Overall summary of feedback from the assessors and stakeholders, putting them together in a common list: reinforce communication, simplify the language, develop training awareness sessions, involve academic fellows, develop supporting material, include requirements of continuing professional development, and decrease the number of competences. We have included expected concepts in the updated competence framework, and we are working on the training material, supporting material, and we will organize short or long training and briefing sessions for the relevant stakeholders such as IMCs, CMCs, and assessors. So again, key messages: keeping the existing structure, review and improve the content, enrich with AI and digitalization, etc. So these are similar messages as I have already mentioned. Now we are going to see some extracts, some information from the updated competence framework. Let us first have a big picture. On this slide, you see the overall structure of the competence framework. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are already existing in the competence framework, such as business insight and aptitude, practice capabilities, consultative behavior, ethics, and professional conduct. And we have enriched them with the input from stakeholders and assessors. But at the same time, we have added another competence category, which is AI and data literacy. And we have defined this competence in a process approach, starting from the identification or framing of problems for AI, and then interpreting the model outputs, then understanding limitations in using AI and data, integrating AI tools to client processes, understanding and using data, and of course, as important as the other steps, safe, secure, and responsible use of data and AI. So this way, the competence framework has been updated, adapted to the changes in relation to global trends, and also fulfilling the feedback from stakeholders and assessors. Again, with another dimension of looking at the structure, we aimed also a T-shaped profile of consultants. By saying T-shaped, we look from the top level to see the big picture. We expect the consultants to be the expert on understanding business, but at the same time having the overview. Horizontal, the big picture, and vertical, going into deep detail as necessary. But in doing all of these, we are also expecting the management consultant profile having the core technical competences, human and behavioral competences, and the ways of working at the same time. Some extracts from the new competence framework or the revised, updated competence framework. As you see, the highlighted text is also added to the existing competence framework. We have kept the same structure, like the definition of the competence, and then the reflections to foundation level, CMC level, and professional leader level. Then, for example, management of digitally enabled assignments is an addition to the 2.1 competence assignment and engagement management capabilities. And all of these red text is the new addition, including AI-assisted methods and confidentiality and other to be considered in relation to the feedback containing the safe and secure use of digital tools, data, and AI-assisted methods. Another example is managing engagement in hybrid and digitally enabled environments, also described in 3 levels of consultancy profile, foundation, CMC, profession leader. Another one, again, reflected by considering their feedback from stakeholders and assessors, is using digital and AI-assisted methods to create client value. You remember several slides before this one, they have mentioned you need to highlight the creation of value for the client. It is mentioned here, but combined with digital and AI-assisted methods. Another one is facilitation and co-creation, and including all other aspects like culture, delivery mode, including remote and hybrid environments. So they are all considered included in the new updated content and reflected to the relevant areas or dimensions. Resilience and adaptability, including the working with digital and AI-assisted tools, safety, security, and confidentiality. As you remember, we have included a new competence category, which is AI and data literacy, and we have divided into 5 or 6 subcategories, including the challenges, use cases, and expected value, identifying clients' business issues, and defined for foundation, CMC, and profession leader. The second one, completely new competence, interpreting AI outputs. The next one, understanding limitations, the definition of competence, and then deployment of this definition across foundation, CMC, and profession leader level. So that was a brief summary, a brief reflection of the updated competence framework. And as you see, this will complete and support the consultants for the new periods, new businesses, and also considering the VUCA situations and the use of AI and data. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Celal. I think we all want to congratulate you and the team.
Thank you.
On all the hard work that you've put in a very robust process, and delivered a comprehensive and yet highly practical document for us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, so I'm going to come back now and talk to you about the new Code of Responsible Use of Artificial Intelligence for Management Consultants. So, this is a landmark public professional standard that sets out for the first time a comprehensive and globally applicable framework for the ethical and responsible use of AI in our profession. But let me start by looking at why we believe this code is necessary in the first place. AI has arrived in our profession not as a distant possibility, but a present reality, and it's arrived much faster than most of us anticipated. And already consultants around the world are using generative AI to draft reports, synthesize research, build financial models, code prototypes, and translate communications. It's transforming our profession. So automated decision support systems are shaping advice that affects people's livelihoods, organizations' futures, and increasingly matters of public interest and policy. And this, of course, is not inherently a problem. AI offers extraordinary opportunities to enhance the quality of our work, to serve clients more efficiently, and to tackle problems of greater complexity and extend our reach as a profession. But with that opportunity comes an enormous risk, and it's a risk that's not trivial. AI systems can produce outputs that are confidently wrong. They can perpetuate or amplify bias, sometimes invisibly, in ways that disadvantage people based on their gender, their ethnicity, or their socioeconomic background. They can be used in ways that compromise client confidentiality. They can be deployed by well-intentioned consultants who lack the competence to understand the limitations. And they can erode, if we're not careful, the very thing that makes our profession valuable: independent, human, professional judgment. At the same time, the regulatory landscape shifting rapidly. The EU AI Act is now in force, data protection authorities across the world are scrutinizing AI use. Clients are asking rightly whether and how their consultants are using AI in the work they do on their behalf. And yet, until now, the management consulting profession has had no dedicated, globally recognized standard to guide that use. We've had general ethical codes, and they remain foundational, but nothing specifically addressing the unique professional responsibilities that arise when AI is woven into consulting work. That gap is what this code is designed to fill. It's not a reaction to crisis, it's an act of professional leadership, and it is the right moment to act. So I want to say something about what this moment represents for ICMCI as an organisation. So we are a global body of management of consultants, and through our member institutes in over 60 countries, and through certified management consulting designation that covers more than 10,000 professionals, we set the standards by which our profession needs to be known and trusted. The development of the code was a significant undertaking, and it drew on the expertise of practitioners, ethicists, legal specialists, and governance professionals from across our network. It engaged with internationally recognized AI principles, including the OECD AI principles, the UNESCO recommendations on the ethics of AI, and the EU AI Act. And it was built upon the foundation of our existing code of conduct, which remains the bedrock of our professional obligations. The result is a document that I believe is genuinely world-leading. It's rigorous without being prescriptive. It's globally applicable without ignoring local context. It's demanding of us as professionals without being impractical. And I want to emphasize one decision that we took as a board and that I'm particularly proud of. This code is freely available to all management consultants worldwide. It's a public professional standard. You don't need to be a CMC. You don't need to be a member of one of our institutes. Any consultant anywhere in the world who wishes to adopt this code and commit to its principles is welcome to do so. This reflects our belief that the responsible use of AI in consulting is not a matter of competitive advantage, it's a matter of professional duty and public trust. We want this code to raise the bar for the entire profession, not just our own members. In making the code freely available, ICMCI is saying, here is the standard. We invite you to adopt it. We challenge the profession to live up to it. The code's built around 7 core principles, and let me take you through each of them because I believe they deserve more than a passing mention. Together, they form a coherent, integrated vision of what responsible AI looks like in practice. The first principle is human responsibility and oversight. This is in many ways the foundation of everything else. The principle states that all AI-supported outputs must be subject to meaningful human review and professional judgment before they influence client decisions or professional deliverables. So let me be direct about what this means in practice. It means you cannot and must not simply accept what an AI system tells you. You must review it. You must apply your own expertise. You must be able to explain in plain language how an AI-assisted result was obtained and what its limitations are. And for high-risk uses of AI, those that may affect fundamental rights, safety, or critical decisions, a qualified person must have the ability to intervene, override, or discontinue the AI system. We are and must always remain the professionals. The AI is a tool. That distinction is non-negotiable. The second principle is fairness and non-discrimination. AI systems learn from data, and data reflects the world as it has been, not always the world as it should be. Bias embedded in training data can result in AI outputs that systematically disadvantage certain groups of people, sometimes in ways that are difficult to detect. This code requires consultants to take reasonable steps to mitigate the risk that AI systems introduce, perpetuate, or amplify bias, particularly in work that affects people's rights and opportunities in human resources, recruitment, restructuring, access to services, and public policy. Where practicable, firms should test AI outputs for disparate impact on protected groups and document their approach. This is not merely a technical obligation. It's an expression of a fundamental professional value that our work serves people fairly and that we do not use powerful tools in ways that can cause harm to the vulnerable. The third principle is transparency to clients and stakeholders. Trust is the currency of consulting, and trust depends on honesty, including honesty about how our work is done. This principle requires consultants to inform clients when AI tools materially contribute to analysis, recommendations, or deliverables. It prohibits us from presenting AI-generated content as purely our own original work without appropriate review, adaptation, and, where necessary, attribution. Now, the code is sensible about proportionality. Routine productivity tools, like a grammar checker or an AI-powered search tool, need not be individually disclosed. But where AI materially shapes the methodology or the recommendations, clients have a right to know. This is not a burden, it's an opportunity. Clients who understand how AI is being used on their behalf and who see that their consultant is applying rigorous professional judgment to AI outputs will have greater confidence in the work, not less. The fourth principle is privacy, data protection, and confidentiality. Consultants work with some of the most sensitive information that organizations possess: client strategies, personnel data, financial projections, competitive intelligence. These are shared with us in confidence, and that confidence is sacred. The code requires that AI use must comply with all applicable data protection and confidentiality obligations. Personal or confidential data, client data, must not be entered into AI systems that may reuse, train on, or expose that data, unless governed by appropriate contractual and technical safeguards. And consultants must respect client instructions regarding the use or restriction of AI in relation to their data. This is an area where I would urge particular vigilance. Many of the generative AI tools that are freely and conveniently available are not, by default, configured for enterprise confidentiality. The ease of use can mask real risk. Before entering client data into any AI system, consultants must satisfy themselves that appropriate protections are in place. The fifth principle is safety, robustness, and security. AI systems can fail. They can produce outputs that are incorrect, misleading, or harmful. They can be vulnerable to manipulation or attack. The code requires consultants to favor AI systems that demonstrate appropriate levels of security, robustness, and reliability. and to avoid systems likely to produce unreliable or harmful outcomes. For high-risk uses of AI, and I want to underline that word high risk because this encompasses AI uses that may affect fundamental rights, safety, or critical infrastructure. Structure risk-based approaches must be applied. Firms should establish proportionate procedures for identifying, reporting, and addressing harmful, erroneous, or unsafe AI outputs. In other words, we should not deploy tools we do not trust in situations where the cost of failure is high. That's professional common sense, but it needs to be said explicitly in the age of AI. In other words, we should not deploy tools we do not trust in situations where the cost of failure is high. The sixth principle is accountability and documentation. Accountability is the hallmark of a profession. It's what distinguishes us from vendors and service providers. And this code is unequivocal. The use of an AI system does not reduce, transfer, or extinguish the professional accountability of the consultant or firm. You remain fully responsible for the work product, the advice, and the impact, whether or not AI tools were used in its preparation. That's a high standard, but it's the right standard. The code also requires firms to document significant AI-supported decisions and to establish clear lines of accountability for AI governance. Consultants must ensure that their use of AI complies with this code and with their firm's internal policies. This is not bureaucracy for its own sake. It's the foundation of a defensible, trustworthy professional practice. The seventh and final principle is sustainability. Now, this may, at first glance, seem like the most unexpected entry on this list, but I believe it's actually one of the most important. The operation of AI systems, particularly at scale, has material environmental implications. Energy consumption, water use, carbon emissions. As a profession that advises on strategy and transformation, we have both the influence and the responsibility to take this seriously. The code calls on consultants to consider the environmental, societal, and economic impact of the AI tools they select and to promote proportionate and responsible use. It also addresses something I think is genuinely important. When advising clients on the adoption or scaling of AI systems, consultants should draw attention to relevant environmental considerations and, where appropriate, recommend measures to reduce unnecessary energy consumption and resource use. Sustainability is not separate from responsible AI use, it's part of it. The code actually goes on with other content to talk in detail about the application of the code, about individual organization responsibilities, about permissible and impermissible uses, about communication and client consent. It talks in detail about data protection, confidentiality, and IP, and it talks a bit more about the element of sustainability. And it also talks at length about methods of implementation, compliance, and enforcement, including potential disciplinary systems for non-compliance with the code. But the bit I want to spend a bit more time talking about is the section which is part 2, all about advising clients on the use of AI. Because this is increasingly central to what many of us do. Clients are asking us not just to use AI in our own work, but to help them navigate their own AI adoption. their strategies, their governance, their implementation, and their workforce transitions. The code sets out clear and demanding standards for this advisory role. It requires that consultants possess genuine competence in the AI areas they're advising on, and specifically that they understand not just the marketing claims of AI providers, but the practical realities of how AI systems behave, where they fail, and what risks they carry. It requires continuous professional development because AI is evolving at a pace that makes standing still equivalent to falling behind. Critically, the code addresses the duty of consultants to facilitate meaningful, inclusive consultation with the client stakeholders, including employees whose role may be affected by AI deployment. This is not optional. The code also affirms emphatically the primacy of human judgment. Consultants must advise client that AI outputs are probabilistic, pattern-based, and limited. They do not possess understanding, ethical reasoning, or contextual sensitivity. The consultant's role is to position AI as a complement to skilled human analysis, not a replacement for it. There's a specific passage in the code I find particularly powerful. It addresses what the code calls automation bias, the well-documented tendency of decision makers to defer to the output of an automated system, even in the face of contradictory evidence or professional instinct. The code requires consultants to advise clients to implement safeguards against this tendency and to resist it in their own work. Finally, the code is unequivocal that where a proposed AI deployment presents significant ethical risks that can't be adequately addressed, the consultant should advise the client against proceeding. Even, and I want to be very direct about this, where the client is enthusiastic about the proposal and where declining to support it may be commercially disadvantageous to the client. That's what it means to be a trusted advisor, and that's what distinguishes a professional from a vendor. So let me close this with a call to action and a word about what this moment means. The code we've published is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning. Standards must be lived, not merely published, and I want to leave you with three things, three recommendations or requests. First, read the code. It's freely available. It's written to be read by practitioners. Second, adopt it. Make a commitment personally and within your firm to the 7 principles it embodies. Third, help us develop it. The code will be reviewed and updated as AI evolves, and we need your input, your insights, and your knowledge and experience to help us do that. ICMCI has chosen to lead, and we've chosen to set the standard. We've chosen to make it freely available to the world. Now it falls to each of us, as individuals, professionals, as firms, as member institutes, to live up to it. Thanks. I am sorry to say that I'm going to inflict myself on you yet further for a few minutes, because I do really want to bring together everything that we have covered today in today's sessions. I opened conference about just over an hour ago, and I described the environment that's facing our profession as a perfect storm, with geopolitical instability, technological disruption, shifting client expectations, etc., etc. But what we've heard in the session since then has, I hope, convinced every one of you that mastering this storm is not just wishful thinking. It's achievable. It demands something of us, though. It demands that we're willing to equip ourselves properly and to hold ourselves to account, to lead rather than to follow. So let me draw together the threads of what we've seen today, what we've heard today. Robert took us into the heart of the storm and showed us how to navigate it. His message was clear. In an uncertain world, strategy can't be a rigid plan carved in stone. It needs to be built with flexibility to pivot when circumstances change, as they inevitably will. What our clients need now is precision sharp strategy, responsive, grounded in evidence, and designed for a world that refuses to stand still. Robert's 5 highlights that he brought out, I think, were an excellent summary of what our white paper is all about. Change is constant, and we don't like it, but we must learn to love it, because change brings progress, change brings improvement. Reactive compliance is not enough. Reactive compliance needs to be changed into strategic advantage. Don't consider compliance as a burden, but use it as an opportunity to direct your strategy to improve performance. Technical shortfall is a critical threat to agility and resilience in a company. Do not neglect investment in technology. Diversity accelerates progress. And as I've looked at the screen in front of me during our 2 sessions today, I've seen well over 120 different faces in front of me that represent the diversity of our organization. And that diversity represents the strength that we have as leaders of the global profession. And lastly, Robert's point of peer-to-peer relationships. That is what makes the difference in creating sustainable and actionable solutions. And I particularly emphasize the word actionable, because the relationship of client and consultant, where client is heavily involved in the final solutions, means that the client will definitely be interested in making those solutions actionable as well. Their reputation depends on it. So thank you, Robert, for that. And then moving on to Celal, exposition of our new competence framework. I mean, what has impressed me about our new framework is not just how good it is, how practical and how realistic it is, but also the robust process that was followed in putting it together. To the engagement of the stakeholders, and that makes it not just an ivory tower document, but it's a real practical standard for us to follow. So, artificial intelligence. I talked about our AI code, and I think that really is a thread that runs through everything that we've talked about today, because AI is the all-encompassing new powerful influence on our profession. I set out the 7 principles that I believe we should use to govern how we engage with this new technology. They're working principles. They're designed to be applied in practice on real engagement. But I want to make the broader point that AI is not a standalone topic today. It was woven into the fabric of everything. Robert's strategies for an uncertain world will increasingly be developed with the aid of AI-powered analysis, scenario modeling, and predictive tools. The competence framework that Celal presented now explicitly incorporates digital fluency and AI literacy as core requirements. And the AI code provides the ethical guardrails that ensures the technology is used responsibly. This is exactly as it should be. AI not a separate compartment of our professional lives, it's an accelerant. And the nature of an accelerant is that it amplifies what already is there. If what's already there is genuine competence, deep expertise, ethical commitment, and a rigorous approach to client service, then AI makes us more powerful, more efficient, and more valuable to our clients. But if what's already there is sloppy thinking, superficial analysis, and no accountability, then AI doesn't fix those problems, it magnifies them. It allows bad advice to be generated faster, distributed more widely, and delivered with a veneer of technological sophistication that can fool clients into thinking they're getting something rigorous when they're not. That's why the AI code and the competence framework are not competing initiatives. They're two sides of the same coin. The framework ensures the consultant is competent. The code ensures that the technology is used ethically. Together, they give clients something that no unregulated, uncertified practitioner can offer, and that's assurance. I've spent much of my time as chair of ICMCI making the case for professional standards in an unregulated profession. It's an argument I've made in Vienna, in Brussels, in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Singapore, in Australia, and other places online. And I'll be candid with you, it's not always an easy argument to make. Some consultants see standards as bureaucracy. Some see the CMC as unnecessary in a market where reputation and referral seem to do the job well enough. Some, frankly, prefer the freedom of an unregulated market because it allows them to operate without scrutiny. But today, we have the strongest evidence we've ever assembled for why that view is not just wrong, it's dangerous. Robert showed us that clients facing genuine storms need advisors they can trust with decisions that will shape the future of their organizations. Trust in that context is not a feeling, it is a function of verifiable competence and demonstrated ethical commitment. A confident manner and a polished presentation are not enough when the stakes are this high. Chelal showed us that ICMCI is not defending a static set of requirements from a previous era. We're actively involving what competence means, incorporating the skills and knowledge that the modern consultant genuinely needs, and doing so through a rigorous, consultative, evidence-based process. This is a living, breathing professional standard, not a dusty certificate on the wall. The AI code shows that our profession is stepping into regulatory white space before the governments do it for us. Governments around the world are grappling with how to regulate AI, most of them behind the curve. ICMCI, by contrast, has already produced a principled, practical code that consultants can adopt immediately. We're not waiting to be told how to behave. We're leading. Taken together, I believe these three pieces of work make a case I think is unanswerable. Voluntary self-regulation through ICMCI is faster, more expert-led, and more globally portable than anything a single national government could impose. It's built by consultants, for consultants, with the needs of clients at its heart. But, and this is the crucial caveat, it only works if the profession embraces it. The architecture is built, now we need the profession to live in it. In addition, our National Consulting Index, the NCI, clearly demonstrates that a strong management consulting presence in a country can go hand in hand with an enhanced GDP. and other indices of a country's economic health. It's all the more imperative then that our profession needs to regulate itself to behave in the most professionally competent and ethical manner possible in order to provide excellent value for our clients. So I'm closing with 4 requests. Please read and learn from the white paper. You will no doubt get insights that will help you in your consulting engagement. Secondly, if you hold the CMC designation, be its ambassador. Don't treat it as a line on your CV that you update every 3 years. Make it visible. Tell your clients what it means. Explain that it represents verified competence, adherence to an international code of conduct, and commitment to continuous professional development. Show your clients what a professional consultant looks like. Thirdly, take the updated competence framework back to your national institute and use it. Make it the benchmark for professional development programs in the year ahead. Use it to assess your own skills and see where they need strengthening, particularly in areas of digital fluency. Let's not leave it in the toolbox, but let's use it and let's spread the knowledge of it amongst people who buy consultancy services. And then lastly, adopt the AI use code, not as an aspiration, but as a working protocol in your practice, starting right now. Next time you use an AI tool on a client engagement, ask yourself, am I maintaining proper human oversight? Am I being transparent with my client? Am I protecting their data? Am I accountable for the output? If the answer to any of those questions is uncertain, the code gives you the framework to put it right, so use it. I began this day by saying that storms are when captains earn their keep. We've spent the past 90 minutes equipping ourselves for the voyage ahead. Robert gave us the compass, Chalal gave us the chart, and the AI code gave us the rules of seamanship. Compass, chart, and code. Strategy, competence, and ethics. These are not 3 separate things. They're one integrated response to the most challenging, most exciting period in the history of our profession. The global management consulting market is valued at $1 trillion and growing. The demand for what we do, genuine, expert, ethical advisory services, has never been greater, but nor has the scrutiny. Clients are more sophisticated, expectations are higher, and the consequences of getting it wrong are more severe. In that environment, the consultants who will thrive are not the loudest, the cheapest, or those who hide behind a well-known brand name. They're the most confident, the most agile, and the most trustworthy. That is the profession I believe ICMCI is building. That is the standard that CMC represents. And that is the future I'm asking every one of us to help create. We're not passengers in this storm. We're not even just the navigators. We're the people our clients turn to when the seas are roughest and the stakes are highest. Let's make sure every single day that we're worthy of that trust. Thank you all so much for joining us today. From wherever in the world you are, I wish you a happy rest of International Consultants Day, whether you're morning, afternoon, or evening. Go now and help to master the storm. Thank you all.
Nick, you deserve some applauses.
Yes.
At least some applauses.
It's
I'm so proud
the
to be
Philips.
part of this and to hear all this. This is a masterpiece of leadership.
Listen,
Thank you.
as you well know, Soren, from your experience, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And we gain from what's gone before, and we prepare the path for what comes after. That's our job.
I'm really okay. I'm impressed. Good.
Thank
Excellent.
you so much, everybody. I mean, your presence has been invaluable. I'm sure that you will have questions to ask, particularly after you've read the white paper and the code of conduct and the competence framework. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Send us an email through the secretariat if you have any queries that you want answered. We're there. Well, we are there, hopefully, to give the answers. Maybe not the answers you want, but the right answers.